Welcome back to our Friday sharing. So before we start, there are a few rules that actually we need you guys to follow and actually need your cooperation. So first, all participants required to mute your mic when speaker is actually when speaker is actually sharing. So second, it would be best for you to turn on your video so our speakers tonight able to see all of you and actually know who are you. So at the same time, it would be good if you can change your Zoom ID to your real name. And also, we have a 20, actually, at the end of the section, we're going to have a 20 minutes of FAQ section. So if you have any questions and you want to ask it, you can straightforward type a question mark in the chat room, or actually you can type your question in the chat room. So I'm going to pick it up and ask our guest to ask our speaker tonight. So there are two ways for you guys to ask questions. You can type a question mark, I'm going to unmute you, or you can type your question in the chat room. I'm going to pick it up and actually ask our Dr. Jerry. So let's back to our today's topic. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about the very popular topic, and a lot of people are going to put a lot of interest on it. It's about COVID-19 and hydrogen. Because why? Because right now, I believe a lot of people that your friends and your family, or even people around you that have this, this health problem by COVID-19. So they're very concerned about it. So we are going to discuss this topic today. So this is a subject is which we should all be deeply interested, I want to say, because we are actually facing this kind of problem every day right now. So our speaker, our tonight's speaker, he actually spent almost his entire career advising people on their health conditions, and he's an expert of molecular hydrogens. At the same time, he is a naturopathic nutritionist who specializes in health consultancy. The MHI Molecular Hydrogen Institution consultant. He is also a nutritionist. He provides all the nutritional advice, natural health protocols, and preventive health for many years. So he guided the optimum health and well-being of some of these country best known people. And currently, he attached a group of clinic with 4 branches for over 12 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our tonight's speaker, Dr. Jerry Chin. Hi, Dr. Jerry.
Hi, Kenzie. Thanks for the nice intro. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, great. Yes, super clear.
Okay, good. We have about, I see almost 100 people. So we're all ready to go on a Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. Correct.
Oh, we hit 100. Okay, I'll start at 100. Okay, this is a hot topic. I think everybody in the world has heard of COVID-19. If you haven't heard, means you are in another planet, I think. Today, I want to talk not so much about COVID because we hear so much news, there's so much COVID. I'll give a quick rundown, background. I want to explain a little bit about the role of hydrogen in relation to COVID-19 because so many people ask me. So let's move on. Let me see, where's my next slide? Oops. Let me stop share and start again. Oh. So you can see something in the middle blocking, right?
Yes, I can see that. I think.
Okay, stop share, start again.
Yeah.
I think I need to buy a new computer. Okay, start share again. COVID. Never mind, people still coming in. We are 110 already. Hopefully the middle bar doesn't come and interrupt again. Okay, tonight's topic is about COVID-19 in relation with hydrogen, which not many people have heard of, but those of you in the know already know the role of hydrogen. I will cover COVID-19 and I'll cover hydrogen, so you have all the latest information. Before I start, please understand that this is a Zoom presentation. I'm not there to see you. Our doctors in the clinic are not there to see you, so I cannot treat you or give you treatment, diagnosis, whatever. So generally, it's for your own information. If you want to make an appointment with my clinic, please contact me. In fact, only yesterday, we were given the government privatization right to use Sinovac vaccine. we are only offering Sinovac vaccine, but this batch is for private clinics, so therefore there's some kind of a charge, 300 over ringgit for 2 shots, and I guess for Sinovac the free offer is over. But those of you who are signed up for other vaccines, I presume you can still go for it. So sorry, I've been very, very busy today as people start calling up for appointments. So please take this as a disclaimer. Now, we all know coronavirus, you heard of COVID-19, but many people do not quite understand how it works, what it does to your body. You have seen the pictures, you've seen it on WhatsApp. So I have our colleague here, Johnny, play a short video so that you can refresh yourself on what COVID-19 is all about. Johnny, are you ready?
In December 2019, the Chinese authorities notified the world that a virus was spreading through their communities. In the following months, it spread to other countries, with cases doubling within days. This virus is the severe acute respiratory syndrome-related coronavirus 2 that causes the disease called COVID-19 and that everyone simply calls coronavirus. What actually happens when it infects a human, and what should we all do? A virus is really just a hull around genetic material and a few proteins, arguably not even a living thing. It can only make more of itself by entering a living cell. Corona may spread via surfaces, but it's still uncertain how long it can survive on them. Its main way of spreading seems to be droplet infection, when people cough or if you touch someone who's ill and then your face, say rubbing your eyes or nose. The virus starts its journey here and then hitches a ride as a stowaway deeper into the body. Its destinations are the intestines, the spleen or the lungs, where it can have the most dramatic effect. Even just a few coronaviruses can cause quite a dramatic situation. The lungs are lined with billions of epithelial cells. These are the border cells of your body, lining your organs and mucosa, waiting to be infected. Corona connects to a specific receptor on its victim's membranes to inject its genetic material. The cell, ignorant of what's happening, executes the new instructions, which are pretty simple: copy and reassemble. It fills up with more and more copies of the original virus until it reaches a critical point and receives one final order: self-destruct. The cell sort of melts away, releasing new corona particles, ready to attack more cells. The number of infected cells grows exponentially. After about 10 days, millions of body cells are infected and billions of viruses swarm the lungs. The virus has not caused too much damage yet, but corona is now going to release a real beast on you, your own immune system. The immune system, while there to protect you, can actually be pretty dangerous to yourself and needs tight regulation. And as immune cells pour into the lungs to fight the virus, corona infects some of them and creates confusion. Cells have neither ears nor eyes. They communicate mostly via tiny information proteins called cytokines. Nearly every important immune reaction is controlled by them. Corona causes infected immune cells to overreact and yell bloody murder. In a sense, it puts the immune system into a fighting frenzy and sends way more soldiers than it should, wasting its resources and causing damage. Two kinds of cells in particular wreak havoc. First, neutrophils, which are great at killing stuff, including ourselves. As they arrive in their thousands, they start pumping out enzymes that destroy as many friends as enemies. The other important type of cells that go into a frenzy are killer T cells, which usually order infected cells to commit controlled suicide. Confused as they are, they start ordering healthy cells to kill themselves too. The more and more immune cells arrive, the more damage they do, and the more healthy lung tissue they kill. This might get so bad that it can cause permanent, irreversible damage that leads to lifelong disabilities. In most cases, the immune system slowly regains control. It kills the infected cells, intercepts the viruses trying to infect new ones, and cleans up the battlefield. Recovery begins. The majority of people infected by corona will get through it with relatively mild symptoms. But many cases become severe or even critical. We don't know the percentage because not all cases have been identified, but it's safe to say that there is a lot more than with the flu. In more severe cases, millions of epithelial cells have died, and with them, the lung's protective lining is gone. That means that the alveoli, tiny air sacs via which breathing occurs, can be infected by bacteria that aren't usually a big problem. Patients get pneumonia, respiration becomes hard or even fails, and patients need ventilators to survive. The immune system has fought at full capacity for weeks and made millions of antiviral weapons. And as thousands of bacteria rapidly multiply, it is overwhelmed. They enter the blood and overrun the body. If this happens, death is very likely. The coronavirus is often compared to the flu, but actually, it's much more dangerous. While the exact death rate is hard to pin down during an ongoing pandemic, we know for sure that it's much more contagious and spreads faster than the flu. There are two futures for a pandemic like corona: fast and slow. Which future we will see depends on how we all react to it in the early days of the outbreak. A fast pandemic will be horrible and cost many lives. A slow pandemic will not be remembered by the history books. The worst-case scenario for a fast pandemic begins with a very rapid rate of infection because there are no countermeasures in place to slow it down. Why is this so bad? In a fast pandemic, many people get sick at the same time. If the numbers get too large, healthcare systems become unable to handle it. There aren't enough resources like medical staff or equipment like ventilators left to help everybody. People will die untreated. And as more healthcare workers get sick themselves, the capacity of healthcare systems falls even further. If this becomes the case, then horrible decisions will have to be made about who gets to live and who doesn't. The number of deaths rises significantly in such a scenario. To avoid this, the world, that means all of us, needs to do what it can to turn this into a slow pandemic. A pandemic is slowed down by the right responses, especially in the early phase, so that everyone who gets sick can get treatment and there's no crunch point with overwhelmed hospitals. Since we don't have a vaccine for corona, we have to socially engineer our behavior to act like a social vaccine. This simply means two things: not getting infected and not infecting others. Although it sounds trivial, the very best thing you can do is to wash your hands. Soap is actually a powerful tool. The coronavirus is encased in what is basically a layer of fat. Soap breaks that fat apart and leaves it unable to infect you. It also makes your hands slippery, and with the mechanical motions of washing, viruses are ripped away. To do it properly, wash your hands as if you've just cut up some jalapenos and want to put in your contacts next. The next thing is social distancing, which is not a nice experience, but a nice thing to do. This means no hugging, no handshakes. If you can stay at home to protect those who need to be out for society to function, from doctors to cashiers or police officers. You depend on all of them. They all depend on you to not get sick. On a larger level, there are quarantines, which can mean different things, from travel restrictions or actual orders to stay at home. Quarantines are not great to experience and certainly not popular, but they buy us, and especially the researchers working on medication and vaccination, crucial time. So if you are put under quarantine, you should understand why and respect it. None of this is fun, but looking at the big picture, it is a really small price to pay. The question of how pandemics end depends on how they start. If they start fast with a steep slope, they end badly. If they start slow with a not so steep slope, they end okayish. And in this day and age, it really is in all of our hands, literally and figuratively.
Dr. Jerry, are you there? Dr. Jerry, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. I think I'm okay now. Can you hear me? Can see?
Yeah, I better hear you. Yep.
All right. Some people just text me and say they are still waiting to be admitted.
I think they're all in.
So they're all in. I see some
Yeah.
people here. Oh, because I'm co-host, so I have to admit, is it? I don't know. Is someone in
Okay,
charge of
because
admitting?
I'm letting them in right now. Yep.
Okay. Someone say it's full, but I don't think it's full. I don't know. Okay. I think I lost my screen. Let's go back to my screen. First of all, just a short comment about the video. That was done in the early stage of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it says that there were no vaccine at that time, but obviously, you know, right now that we have some kind of vaccines coming up, and in fact, a lot of people are starting to be vaccinated or have been vaccinated. So that one, but it shows the mechanism of how the coronavirus attacks our body. And you notice a few important things. Something that keeps repeating itself is our immune system. If our immune system is not working, it enters, it disrupts, it replicates, and the worst part is it hijacks your own immune system and then create a storm that your immune system attacks itself. It cannot even differentiate between good cells, bad cells, so everything goes haywire. And you get organ failure, you get a cytokine storm, and then, of course, many people cannot survive that. Okay, so we have to understand that part of it. I'll continue with my talk so that we won't take too long. All right, here we go. This is the Malaysia records. I know that some of you from overseas, but most of us here are Malaysians, so we look at the Malaysian record, which has been quite bad. You can see that until today, we've been averaging over 15,000 cases a day. And you can see that we are heading towards, I would say, a third wave, not just a second wave. And of course, what is more disturbing is the number of deaths. We are hitting like over 150 deaths a day. And we are number one, I think, in the global measurements of cases and death, which is really bad. So it's opportune that today we get to listen about what we can do against this situation. The vaccination rate in Malaysia for first dose is still very low, about 20%. In the first dose is 40%. Second dose is only 20%. For us to achieve any kind of total protection, which they call herd immunity, you have to reach like 70, even 80%. But even then, you know, you're not 100% protected. Why? Because of variants and the different variations of virus that's coming out. Right now, in terms of approved vaccines, we have 7 by WHO, and Malaysia is using 6. The one that I've asterisked is like AstraZeneca, Johnson, Pfizer, Sinopharm, and Sinovac. And I think all of us have heard these names. They all work in 4 different ways. And what are the 4 ways? You have the RNA vaccine, which you would know as Pfizer, where they actually use genetic RNA to trick your immune response so that it will defend itself just like an attack from the coronavirus. You have a viral vector, which is most popular is AstraZeneca or AZ for short. In Malaysia, we will be seeing CanSino as well coming up. This one has been used in Ebola before, so it's not the first time. They use a vector viral which has been injected with the genetic material similar to the coronavirus so that your body responds to it. And then you have the whole virus inactivated like Sinovac, Sinopharm. This is something that has been used for many, many, many years. We've got hepatitis, we've got HPV. These are the type of commonly used virus, which is a kind of an old technology. And then lastly, we have a new type of protein subunit. Basically, you take some of the protein from the virus because, as you know, it is a spike protein. So with that protein unit, your body will respond to it. Whatever method is used, they all try to stimulate an antibody response or an immune response so that you can fight the virus. Okay. The unfortunate part, of course, is all these were developed with the first generation virus. That means the alpha. Now, what do we have? We've got delta, we've got gamma, and obviously delta is the most damaging. It really devastated India with the third wave, killed many people, and we're starting to see delta cases around the world. And some of it can even evade people who have been double vaccinated. For sure, the efficacy of the vaccines will drop with variants, which is why the pharmaceutical companies are talking about booster shots. They're also talking about mixing and matching, something like a cocktail. But all these are not out yet. They're still studying the effect on the different variants. But the virus is a living thing. It's like a war. It's also fighting. It's also evolving to survive. So that is the challenge for all of us. So today, what I want to emphasize is you can protect yourself. You can protect yourself not only physically, but using the proper immune techniques and remembering that the ultimate weapon you have is your own body. Now, quickly, when you get COVID-19, there are 5 stages. You start with something, you may not get the symptoms. Even when you test with the COVID test kit, you may show that you're negative, which is why you need like a 7 days gap in between 2 tests to confirm it, which we call a double dip. And then you start having symptoms. So clinical stage 1, 2, 3 is a very important time where you can use many therapies to fight it and to recover. But if you don't take care and you don't do anything, you will reach 4 and 5, which becomes critical. And then you will need supplemental oxygen, ventilation, and you need to be hospitalized. And obviously, as you know, there are challenges in terms of filling the hospital. And if you go to a ward, a hospital, you will increase even more viral load. So 1, 2, 3 basically is a home treatment. Very important for you, for all of us, is to carry an oximeter. You see this meter on the finger that measures your amount of SpO2 or oxygen saturation. Average normal people is 97, 98. Anything above 95 is quite okay. Once you drop below 95, you should do something, and I'll talk more about it later. But once you're below 90, you may need intervention. You may need to call an ambulance. You need to go to a hospital because you need some oxygen enhancement. Obviously, there are currently some antiviral treatment, but none of it is proven to actually going to cure you, but it will help. We have dexamethasone, which is a steroid to reduce the inflammation. So these are all the different drugs that are currently to be used, but not everybody will respond to it the same. And the cost of getting sick is very high now. You know, if you just go in for a few Panadol, a few pills, it's going to cost you, at least 7,000 to 14,000. If you are in category 5, we are talking about 6 digits, right? 140, 200 over 1,000. I've heard of people spending $500,000 in recovery because so many days in the ICU. Not only you can't even get a space, but you have to pay a lot. So recently, there's been a lot of talk about a drug called ivermectin. Some of you may not have heard about it. I think many people have heard about it. Ivermectin was first discovered in Australia to be able to inhibit the coronavirus, the COVID virus. And then it was used in some countries and is credited with helping in India, Peru, Uruguay, many countries. And it is a very old drug. It's out of patent. It was used in humans as well as animals for parasites, to remove parasites, and it has saved the world from blindness, from elephantiasis, from many kind of parasitic diseases. But to use it for COVID is something very new. Therefore, WHO is saying that you should use it only within a clinical trial. Ministry of Health say, well, we really don't know. We need to do more trials. So they expect the study to be completed in September. So there's all kinds of controversy. Oxford University is doing more studies on it. But a lot of people are not waiting because people are dying. So there is a big euphoria over trying to use ivermectin. There are different groups of doctors around the world who have presented studies. You know, they form a coalition or alliance called the FLCCC. You can go to flccc.net. You can see their recommendation. And there are various studies. Okay, today I'm not here to say whether you should or shouldn't, but I just want to educate you that you should do your own research. In India, it's been credited with dropping the cases there. Some states have even prescribed it as a standard protection for the population, which we call prophylaxis. And so this is the story on ivermectin. So if you see the name ivermectin, you will know it is. But be very careful, because most of the stock in ivermectin currently is for animals, because animals pick up a lot of parasites. Humans do have parasites, but in countries like Africa, where there's a lot of farming, there's a lot of ground living, they will pick up a lot of parasites. So it's still been given to people and humans. But in developed countries, you hardly see it in humans anymore. So therefore, it's used widely for animals. So if you start looking for it or purchasing it from unknown sources, it is very risky. So the best thing to do is to consult with your doctor, with a qualified pharmacist, qualified doctor, and say, hey, you know, what is this all about? You want to make sure that it is human grade, it is pure, and it doesn't interfere with your other diseases or drugs that you may be taking. So this is still a drug, so do not just pop it everywhere. Get proper advice. And the studies, of course, shown that there has been good results, but many governments, many, like even Malaysia, is still studying it. They like to get their hands on their own results. Most of the studies show that it's absolutely good as a preventive mechanism because it disrupts the replication of the virus. Basically, once the virus enters you, you notice from the video how it grows. It hijacks the cells and then it multiplies. So if you can stop the multiplication, you will just get a mild case. So that's the theory of ivermectin. All right. Now, we come to the topic of the day, which is hydrogen. So people ask me, wow, you know, how can hydrogen help with COVID? How can it help? You know, it's I thought it's a hydrogen cell, or it's a hydrogen bomb, or it's used in industry a lot. Yes, but you see in China, obviously the first case or detected case or well-known case was in Wuhan. So at that time, they were trying to fight this virus, and they came up with the version 1. Today, you can see at the top, it is trial version 7. Okay. Why is people calling me? So let me just turn that off. Okay. So in version 7, the Chinese have been following the treatments for COVID-19. They have been following protocols using Western methods as well as using TCM, which is traditional Chinese methods. And the latest version, which is version 7, so they've gone through 7 versions as they try to improve the protocol for the diagnosis and treatment of the COVID. And they have added inhalation of mixed hydrogen and oxygen. And that is a big stepping stone because they published the report. And this is the result of their study where people were using the hydrogen and oxygen combination. And you can see the rate of recovery with a hydrogen and oxygen gas therapy. And this has created a lot of interest. As you know, COVID-19 is well controlled in China, and they're using all these things. You talk about the cough, the chest pain, the chest tightness, shortness of breath, all the improvements just within days. This is a typical case. If you read the report, there are numerous cases mentioned, but the typical lung fibrosis or inflammation and lesions that you see on the left is a typical case of a COVID-19. And on the right, this case was only after 5 days of using hydrogen and oxygen gas in combination. So nobody died, everybody survived in the whole study. So the Professor Zong, who is in charge of the study, has published his report. It's very long, and he has documented all the cases that was in this study. If you like, the report is on the left, is in English. You can download it on ebook from World Scientific. Is published by one of his students, I think, for the treatment of COVID-19. Very clear title. Of course, in their approach towards COVID-19, they use Western gas as well as traditional Chinese, which is TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And you can see some of the pills down there are quite popular. Many are not approved here in Malaysia, but people are, getting their hands on it. So be very careful, because just like ivermectin, you have fake, you have impure, you have wrong dosage, you have, people just trying to make money out of it. So be very careful with what you put in your body. And what other studies are there besides the China study? Hydrogen therapies for COVID-19. Well, China is not the only one. You have different journals, very respected journals. The European Medical Journal mentioned about oxy-hydrogen gas for COVID. We have a Journal of Thoracic Disease. So all these studies, you can take a snapshot for those of you who like to read. You can study and see the reports. But basically, it has the ability. It has the ability as an adjuvant therapy for COVID-19 patients. For those of you who like to know even more, besides the China report, you have different authors from Japan, from all over the world, who has written about molecular hydrogen as a general therapy. If you want to look at the scientific studies, which has over 1,000, you can go to this website, which is the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. It doesn't promote any brand, but it promotes the education of molecular hydrogen as a therapy for diseases. Okay. I studied so much that they gave me a consultant certificate, which is kind of blur here. But anyway, I'm part of the certified consultant for MHI Institute. So why molecular hydrogen? Well, number one, always we talk about safety. It is safe. Number two, it modulates oxygen, because oxygen is a double-edged sword, right? You need oxygen to breathe, to survive. Your cells need oxygen, but at the same time, it creates oxidative stress. So your body will rust just like a piece of metal or iron rusting. So oxygen can be therapeutic in terms of helping you to breathe, but at the same time, it is quite damaging. And you create a lot of damage from oxygen. But when you add molecular hydrogen, you start to modulate the oxygen. Any excess oxygen that causes oxidative stress will be bonded back with the hydrogen to create what? To create water. It is also the smallest molecule. So what does that mean? It can permeate into every cell in your body, including your brain. Our brain is well protected by a brain barrier. So it is so small, in fact, it's the tiniest molecule in the universe, that it can penetrate into all your cells, including your red blood cells and every cell in your body. So when it does that, what does it do? It has an anti-inflammatory effect. So what does it do? We are talking about the cytokine storm in COVID cases that kills you. When your immune system goes haywire and there's too much inflammation, your immune will keep attacking the inflammation, which is why, in the hospitals, we try to use steroids, but you can't control it all because the cytokine storm is too much. So the hydrogen has the ability to fight against the cytokine storm. Another very interesting part about hydrogen is it is a very powerful antioxidant. Just like your vitamins A, C, E, which are all antioxidants, but hydrogen as an antioxidant is very different because it is selective. It is selective. It can differentiate between damaging free radicals, which causes oxidative stress, against beneficial. The beneficial ones are like nitrous oxide, like some peroxides, whereas the really bad ones are like the hydroxyl oxides, which really creates a lot of disease and aging in your body. So it's a smart antioxidant. It's got intelligence. Okay, and how do we know that? Well, if you like it, you can go read all 1,000 over studies, 170 animal and human trials. It's not like just today that we're talking about hydrogen. There's been a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors who have studied it in great detail. So what can it treat? Because it is a general antioxidant and it's also a general anti-inflammatory, it can treat almost most of the diseases that affect us, all the way from cancer to neuro diseases to obesity, chemo and radiation effect, skin disorders, autoimmune and inflammation, which is kind of related to our COVID-19. So it is a wonderful therapy to have. I talk about molecular size. You just compare. A molecular hydrogen has a molecular size of 2. If you take your most popular vitamin C, it is 176. So what does that mean? It means that the molecular hydrogen can permeate, can diffuse, can cross into your cell membranes very easily. All these other antioxidants can be good for you, but in some circumstances, it is not able to get across everything into the sites that is required. Now, how do you get this hydrogen into your body? Well, there are a few ways, okay? Of course, you all know that gas works very fast. If you want to, knock out somebody, you use gas, it acts faster than water and food, right? You want to poison somebody with food, it takes some time. But if you use gas, it's very fast. You can use it for very bad situation, like to quickly kill people, or you can knock them out, like chloroform and things like that. So gas enters the body really fast through diffusion and into your blood. So what is this AAA oxyhydrogen device we're talking about? How do you get this gas into your body? Well, you want something that is FDA registered so that you are ensured that the safety is there. You want something that's non-invasive with a low flow. Why low flow? Because you don't want to increase the pressure, which can damage your lungs and your throat area. So it has to be a controlled flow. It has to be easy home use with zero maintenance. You want to have to keep changing filters and things like that. And using the gas device, known as the oxyhydrogen device, you are able to do a 3-in-1 situation. You can inhale, you can do it through your eyes, or you can do it through your ears, which is like a brain diffusion. Here we have a picture, he's holding the book, of a person using all 3. Obviously, the device only has 2 outlets. This device has hydrogen outlet as well as oxygen outlet. You can see the flow rate there is 300. At the bottom, you can see the number 55, which is 55 minutes left. And he's just showing all the 3-in-1 ways. But actually, in terms of the hydrogen, you can either do it to your eyes, you can do it to your ears. In this case, it's also put on the ears, and you can also inhale it. In terms of the COVID approach in China, you inhale it together with the oxygen in a ratio of 2-to-1. That is the magic ratio. Okay. By the way, this is a medical doctor here. And how about drinking it and getting it through water? Another possibility, because you need hydration. So why not hydrate yourself with hydrogen water? This device that I show here, you have a portable unit as well as a tabletop unit. It has a 3-in-1 capability as well. What is it? You have quantum energy, which declusters the water molecule, make it smaller. It has MRET, which uses Earth frequency of 7.8 Hertz. What it does is it realigns the water molecules. And then lastly, of course, it has the hydrogen, which can give you the benefits that I talked about earlier. So how do you use it for COVID-19? As you know, you saw the video just now. The virus can only infect through the nasopharynx. It can only enter through your nose, your mouth, and through your nasal area. So what you want to do is you want to provide protection at that level first. Of course, you use a proper mask that is disinfected. You want to have proper washing so that you don't carry on the virus. You want to maintain your distancing and make sure that you don't touch or go in front of big crowds where there's a chance of you picking up droplets. Those are all physical. But at the same time, if you inhale hydrogen oxygen combination and drinking the hydrogen water, you get the defense of antioxidant, anti-inflammation, and immune regulation. And more important, at the second part, if you are already infected and you begin to feel some pressure on your lungs or in your breathing, like I said earlier, you must get the oximeter to measure. And what you want to do at this stage is to recover and stop the cytokine storm, because that's what's going to kill you. So the inhalation of the hydrogen and oxygen combination, the drinking of the water, is absolutely important at that stage. You do it as much as you can every 1-2 hours. I mean, you can use it for 1 hour to 2 hours, take a break for 30 minutes and keep doing it. Now, how do you protect yourself against COVID-19? I mentioned earlier, you must monitor. If the people around you are sick or your neighborhood is sick, you need to measure your temperature, of course. Thermometer is a must. You need to get an oximeter. Here, there's an oximeter. You need to measure your, we call it SpO2, your oxygen level. If it starts dropping below 95, it's already a danger point. If it drops below 90, it's getting worse. The second point is to maintain hygiene. Always wash up when you come back, change your clothes, wash your body, keep washing your hands, especially if you go out and touch different things and deal with different people. Maintaining distancing away from a crowd is important. Ventilation is very important because the virus will live in an enclosed environment longer. It will circulate around and pick up against people who come in. And what will happen? You will increase your viral load. The ones that differentiate, the thing that differentiate between a severe case versus a mild case, one of the big condition is the viral loading. If you are exposed just for a little while, you will pick up a little bit of virus and your immune system can handle. But if you are stuck in a room for a couple of hours with an infected person, you keep breathing in the virus and breathing in the virus. So you're going to have a bigger viral load. So your immune system has to work harder. And at the same time, the virus has the ability to replicate much more, correct? So we have to look into very short exposure. If you are going to shopping, you're going to meet somebody, do anything, do not spend too much time. And of course, right now, everybody is wearing a mask. You need personal protection. But I see many people wearing all kinds of masks, from very cheap to just fashion masks. You have to understand what you want is protection. So make sure that the mask qualifies as a protective equipment for you. To be safe, you want to spray it with sanitizers. And as I mentioned earlier, the virus attacks through the throat. So it's important that you keep your throat disinfected and you keep gargling. For me, I gargle twice a day. I have a spray that I carry with me to spray my throat. And the one I always use is here from Dr. Michelle, a good friend of mine. It's called Biosep. It uses ionic silver, which is a small molecule, and it is antivirus, antimicrobe, and it is safe even to swallow or to take. The most important thing, as you saw in the video earlier, is your own immune system. You need to prime it. You need to make sure that it's working. It's no point having an immune system that doesn't work. It's like putting a fancy CCTV in your house, but nothing works. None of the camera works. So what's the point? Okay? It's like having a lock in your front door, but the lock doesn't lock the door. So you want an immune system that works, okay? And how do you ensure that it works? How do you ensure that your ultimate protection, which is your own immune, even when you take vaccine, you need to stimulate the immune. What if your immune system cannot be stimulated properly, which is why some people after vaccine still fall sick and some even die, because their immune system was not properly tuned to be robust. So even the vaccine cannot wake it up properly. So whatever you do, whether don't just treat the vaccine as 100%. You need to tune up your immune system. And how do you do that? Well, you need to have proper respiration, which is the breathing part of it. I mentioned oxygen is good. You need it to survive, but it also is damaging. So you need to modulate it with hydrogen if you can. That is the best way. And then hydration. You want to keep yourself hydrated. You need your cells to be detoxed. You need to have a strong immune system through proper water. And I use quality hydrogen water because I know the benefit of it. Nutrition, in terms of eating well, we all know that. Every day we wake up, everybody tells us eat healthy, eat healthy, eat healthy. Absolutely important. If you don't sleep well, your immune system cannot work. That is why you realize that if you have a few sleepless nights, or you work overtime and you work strange hours, you will fall sick very easily. That is a sign of your immune system. Sunshine, we are lucky in Malaysia here that we get plenty of sunshine. People in certain parts of the world where they don't receive much sunshine, they lack vitamin D3, and therefore the immune system is much lower. People who work night shift, who don't see the sun, you will find that they fall sick more easily. We know everybody knows about exercise, but the best exercise you can do is not so long, maybe half an hour with plus warm up is 45 minutes. What you want to do is you got to go fast and slow. Watch your body mass index, which is your BMI ratio. You don't want to be overweight. You don't want to be fat. Now with the lockdown, it's a good chance for you to sleep well, eat well, stay hydrated, do proper breathing, and do some exercise. I put here fast, slow because that's the best way for your body in terms of fast exercise and slow exercise. Don't just do slow all the way or fast all the way. You got to have a mix, which we call intermittent high interval training. Then you have stress management. Of course, you know that when you're stressed, your immune drops. So we have to have a way to calm down our stress. It's difficult now because many businesses are in trouble. We are all very fearful. Suicidal rates are going up. It's a very, very stressful. We have to find our own ways to de-stress. And lastly, we talk about supplementation. This is something that people need to be educated. There's good supplements and there's bad supplements. Okay, you need the immune optimizers. You need to have a good mix of the supplementation that is needed for your body. If you're talking about antivirus, then you have the zinc, you have the magnesium, you have the D3, you have the basically selenium, all the things that are required for antiviral protection. On the other hand, you have other things like omega oils, Q10 and things like that that are necessary for you. So please consult a very good nutritionist or a naturopath doctor who are tuned on this. You know, usually as medical doctors, they are more tuned towards treating you with medication, drugs, and trauma that you experience. You know, you get an injury, you get a car accident, you need a proper medical doctor to fix you up. But in terms of health and optimization, it is better that you consult a proper nutritionist or a naturopath doctor who is able to give you advice. All right. Well, that's all I have for tonight. I will leave some space here for a Q&A session. I know some of you have some questions already. If I do not have time to answer you, but during this period, as you know, I have plenty of people sending me messages, but you can email me. If you want some answers about how we use hydrogen, please go to my YouTube. You can see here is a YouTube under JChin48, and occasionally, not every day, I do some updates on Facebook. So these are my contacts, and please remember that you must appreciate your health. You must value your health before you fall sick. Many people wait until they cannot breathe, then they say, hey, I want to do something about COVID-19. But by the time you can't breathe, your body is already half damaged. So take action before it happens. If you have to get a device to help you breathe hydrogen, get it. You have to get a proper device to drink quality water, get it. If you have to eat better food, fresh food, now you're home cooking, do it, right? So even when you have to order food, try to order more healthy. And most important, stay safe and try to keep the stress of all the bad news out of your system. All right. Thank you so much. Kenzie, I'll take some questions right now.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jerry, about sharing. Actually, it's a very good sharing. I want to tell you guys because Dr. Jerry did mention about how the hydrogen actually help us and actually how we protect ourselves from the very beginning. So I'm going to pick up some questions from the chat room. I think the first questions, I think he keep on asking about this. How the hydrogen able to help asthma? Dr. Jerry, are you there?
You're talking about asthma, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The book that I showed you just now by Professor Zong on COVID-19, actually it has many parts. Only part 7 talks about COVID in detail. The first about respiratory pulmonary diseases. So as you know, asthma is a respiratory inflammation. You're talking about pneumonia. You're talking about people who smoke a lot. So there's a lot of stress on the respiratory system. So a mixed gas inhalation like hydrogen and oxygen is absolutely useful for people who have a history of asthma, who are smokers, or even if they've given up smoking, there are damage done to their lungs, and people who live in polluted environment or don't do enough exercise, so they don't do deep breathing. So their lungs are always working at 20%, 30%. They never have a chance to really clear their lungs, which is why deep breathing exercise like yoga, qigong, and all those things are very good for you. So to answer your question, absolutely. If you have a history of asthma, you should be inhaling this mixed gas on a regular basis. Okay. Next question.
Next question, actually, there's someone asking, is there any difference between our hydrogen inhaler with the one that they use in the China hospital?
Okay. In the hospital environment, you would include flow rate. This is a low flow device of 300 ml. In the hospital in China, they use 2 liters, which is about 7 times more. What happens is because those people are already under attack from the virus, and they have to increase the pressure to have it done. Now in Malaysia, obviously most of all the hospitals will have oxygen concentrator and ventilator. It's good and bad. You need the oxygen to keep you alive, but once you reach a certain stage where your airways are blocked, they will have to increase the pressure to force oxygen into your body. But once you do that, you know your lungs have very small capillaries known as alveoli. That some of them will get scarred, will get punctured and damaged. And that's where you have the scarring of the lungs. Okay. So the oxygen is forced in to keep you going, but at the same time, it will do some long-lasting damage. So when you modulate with hydrogen, there's an MOH report where they studied it. They say that it's seen some benefit and all that, but they need further studies. But nobody has the time now to go and do a study just based on this. But luckily in China, they had the time and they did it. So the difference is the device used in the hospital in China right now has to be under the supervision of a medical professional in a hospital environment. If you're going to take home and use it on a regular basis, then the flow rate has to be reduced so that you can gently admit the hydrogen into your body. Now, let me tell you, even though the flow rate is 300, there are research reports already show that within 15 minutes, the hydrogen starts entering your bloodstream and start entering into your organs. The first organ that receive it will be the liver, followed by the brain, and subsequently the kidney and the rest of your body. And it will saturate. Saturate means it reached the maximum that the organ can absorb within about an hour. Okay, so if you use it, because you allow the first 15 minutes to build up, so 1.5 hours, maximum 2 hours is sufficient, which is why this particular machine is only 2 hours. And then you will take a break for 20-30 minutes, and then you will come back and use it again as necessary. Now, so the difference is the flow rate. And the second difference is, of course, there's no increase in pressure, because we're not talking about situation where you are already, in the hospital. This is for home use and very good for preventive.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jerry. So there are another questions. So there's any possibility the hydrogen can promote cancer cell?
Can the hydrogen what? Promote cancer cells?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Yes, I think there's a question.
Okay.
It's a possibility.
Well, in fact, in our clinic is the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can.
Okay. Actually, it's the opposite. I was exposed to hyperbaric hydrogen as a cancer treatment in Germany many years ago. And at that time, they have to have hydrogen tank to pump the hydrogen gas into a room. And you have to breathe in for certain minutes to fight the cancer cells. If you Google hydrogen, we also use it in our clinic in conjunction with our cancer protocol to fight cancer. And we've been getting very good results. I didn't show it here, but we already have a few testimonials on cancer patients who use oxyhydrogen as a therapy. And of course, I must emphasize that it's not the only tool you have, because cancer is a complicated disease. You have to use many protocols in order to fight it. But hydrogen obviously is one of the big weapons that you can use, because cancer cells create a lot of damaging free radicals, and you need the hydrogen to neutralize that. And using gas is one of the fastest ways. We have people who have, not every case is the same, but we have cases where they have recovered from cancer using hydrogen gas therapy, and we have people who are still using it to maintain their control over their cancer. So it's very, very good. So to answer your question, no, it doesn't promote. In fact, it fights cancer.
So next, Dr. Jerry, can pregnant take hydrogen gas?
Yes, I just sent a report to a doctor friend of mine that shows that actually, if you're interested, you should get the report. Maybe I'll share it out. The Japanese scientists did a study and found that the mothers who inhale hydrogen end up with smarter and stronger babies. And this was a research done by a Japanese scientist, 3 of them from a very prestigious university. Why? They found that it boosts the immune transfer from the mother to the baby in terms of boosting the immune system of the child. And they also found that it reduces the oxidative damage to the baby. But obviously, that is why this machine is created for low flow, because you want it gently so that it doesn't do any damage. And even though it's a very, very safe gas, a low flow device over a long term and regular use is much better than something that is too high flow. So there is reports on pregnancy. That's a good question, because I just saw the answer today because somebody asked me the same question.
So we're on time.
Yeah.
So Dr. Jerry, so there's another question. Can the oxyhydrogen purifier able to help the urinary tract infection?
Well, urinary tract basically is a bacteria that clings on to your urinary tract because you have not been well hydrated. Okay. I would recommend that for those kind of cases, you drink hydrogen water, and you drink a lot of, for example, cranberry juice and all that. A lot of women, because they hold their urine, they do not want to drink a lot of water because they are afraid of looking for the toilet. They find that the toilets are not clean. So therefore, they will then pick up UTI. So it is important to drink water throughout the day, quality water. Stay hydrated. You don't wait until you're thirsty, then you drink. If you feel thirsty, it's too late actually. So you got to keep drinking water. If you can get juices like cranberry juice, which is known to be anti. To answer your question, I think hydrogen water is, in this case, will be much more effective. And the gas itself is good as an antimicrobial, but it's not going to help you if you do not consume the hydration that you need, because the bacteria will cling on to your urinary tract like a stick, like a hook, stick on. So you need to let it come out through proper hydration. Can you see?
Oh, yep. Thank you, Dr. Jerry. So I think, this is a very interesting question. He's asking like, will the hydrogen water help those that already injected the COVID-19 vaccine, such as they have the symptom after vaccine? So would we help with the hydrogen water? If they already get a vaccine? Yep.
Yeah, that's a question I face every day. Not only here. You have to understand, the vaccine is like you're getting sick. That's why you feel a bit of sickness, some of you, depending on your immune system, right? You get a fever, some people get diarrhea, some people... Basically, it's an artificial form of induced infection. So your immune system will dip as it recovers to fight it, okay? Which is why that is a critical 1 to 2 weeks period where you should be careful, you should stay hydrated, you should take a lot of good supplements and eat healthily. And if you have this oxyhydrogen device, you should continue to use it as much as you can, whether you're watching TV or whether you are like now Zooming. When I do my Zoom, sometimes I do a lot of the breathing also, so you don't waste time, correct? So the answer to your question is yes, it will help very much. It will help very much. And why do people promote drinking like coconut water? Because coconut water has a lot of minerals. Of course, to the Chinese, we say that it's cooling, which to a certain extent, it reduces inflammation. So we call it cooling. No? Anything that increases inflammation is heaty. So coconut water has an anti-inflammatory effect. It has very rich minerals, but you want to drink it fresh. So it's actually very good post-vaccine. So post-vaccine, use the oxyhydrogen device, drink a lot of hydrogen water, take good supplements, eat well, and most important, get a lot of rest, do some light exercise. Many people think wrongly. They think that, oh, I've been vaxxed, I'm a Superman now, I can go everywhere. And what's going to happen is if they get sick, they get even more sick. So please, even after the first vax or second vax, treat it like you are sick and rest. And do the proper thing as if you are sick. And then you will recover strongly. Next question.
So next questions. I think they're asking about the hydrogen water. So what is the difference between the hydrogen and the MRET?
Oh, okay. Maybe my slide was too fast. I didn't have time, so I was going very quickly. You see, hydrogen, water is H2O. So you can always extract hydrogen from it. You can buy from Lazada, online, Shopee, whatever, few hundred ringgit, a hydrogen maker. Basically, you use electrolysis to split the hydrogen and the oxygen. And that's it. But what you do not know is, of course, hydrogen is a very light gas. It evaporates very easily. So by the time you use those devices and you pour it out, the hydrogen is gone. So it's just marketing that you think you're getting hydrogen, but you're not getting. It will hardly reach your blood. It will never reach your cells. So what's the point? Okay, you can see the bubble, you can see that, but how is it been hold on? So the important thing is the delivery of the hydrogen. I mean, you can have the best product in the world, but if there's no FedEx, if there's no DHL, how to deliver, right? So how do we ensure the delivery is good? You need quantum and you need MRET. So MRET is using a certain frequency of 7.8 Hertz. You can look for it. 7.8 is named after the founder who discovered it, called Schumann. It is the Earth's natural frequency. It will ensure that the water molecules are aligned in the right way. So when you drink water from the spring, mountain, everything is all properly aligned. The quantum energy, so that instead of sticking together to form a group of water molecules like cluster, it splits up. In fact, Gensi and I just did a video on this. So basically, it's a 3-in-1 thing. You need the quantum to break the water molecules up, because why H2O would like to marry with another H2O, and then they form a group of 20, 30, 40 molecules. So when you drink normal water, it's very filling. But when you have quantum energy, it vibrates. Some of you have seen the video on using the magnet. It will break up the water molecule into individual. So now you got a scattering of water molecules. Using MRET 7.8, you pull it back together, but instead of grouping it, it comes back as a single line. We call it single file alignment. So what happens when it's a single line? It will penetrate very easily into your cells. And what happens when it penetrates? It will pull the hydrogen with it. So with the small molecule, the hydrogen is trapped with the quantum and the MRET, so that when you take the water, the hydrogen can be delivered into a lot of advanced technology, which is why it's patented. Next question.
So I'm going to pick up the last questions. I think it's about thyroid. So how the hydrogen gas actually help in thyroid problem?
Okay. When you have a thyroid problem, it could be due to many factors. One example is you have a hormonal imbalance, because a thyroid is a hormone gland. So it could be, the most serious cases could be just due to some inflammation. So as I mentioned, any inflammatory disease, whether it's stroke, diabetes, even heart diseases, the hydrogen will help, because it is a really well studied and well researched as powerful anti-inflammatory. Diseases like that, what is most important? Most important is to get to the root cause. That is why our clinic, we talk about integrative, meaning that we do proper tests. We don't just cure the symptoms, right? If you got a headache, you take Panadol, headache is gone. You think you're cured. But it comes back again a few days later. You take more paracetamol or Panadol. Do you think the root cause is gone? Maybe it was a temporarily sunburn, or maybe temporarily stress, or temporarily food that you ate. Possible. It could be a very minor case that caused the headache. But what if you got a brain tumor? Also can cause a headache. So how do you know? So therefore, we have to really analyze into something called the root cause. Don't just cover the symptom. Diabetes is a very good example. All the diabetes drug that you take doesn't cure your diabetes, right? It suppresses the sugar level. You feel good. You say, oh, shoot, my sugar very low now. I can continue to eat, chendol or ice kacang or whatever you do. So, but you're fooling yourself. You're still a diabetic. Like it or not. The drug has helped you cover it, but you're not cured. One therapy, exercise, controlling of diet, losing your body mass, fat. So all these things add up into a long-term solution, okay? So that you would not get kidney failure from all the drugs. Eventually, you will go for dialysis, becomes 2 pills, becomes 4 pills, become injection, and becomes kidney failure. So that's the natural progress. And Malaysia is one of the highest diabetic rate in the world. So we have to be very careful with that. So I'm very thankful actually for hydrogen, because from the hydrogen that we use therapeutically, we have saved many diabetic people. I think we have hundreds of testimony on people who have used hydrogen as a therapy for all these diabetic people. So we're thankful for that. Any more questions, Kenzie?
I think there's most of the questions, but I really thank you, Dr. Jerry. So If all of you have a lot of questions want to ask and actually a lot of more personal questions actually you're shy to ask, you're welcome to text our Dr. Jerry or email him. I think he's so happy to see you guys here tonight. At the same time, he's happy to see you guys to call him as well. So thank you everyone tonight and have a good Friday and have a good weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.